Jeffrey Epstein clearly profited tremendously from his friendship with Leslie Wexner. Not only was there a power of attorney signed, which gave him complete control over hundreds of millions of dollars, there was also transference of money that allowed Epstein to buy vast real estate holdings, including the Manhattan triplex, the apartments on East 66th Street, the Stanley, New Mexico ranch, the Avenue Foch apartment in Paris.
How did Jeff Epstein make that much money? And he actually, the reports are, at least that Mr. Wexner gave him this really expensive townhouse here.
Yeah. And then also, don't forget, he also transferred the jet over, a Boeing 727.
But it really raises a question. Well, Wexner is Israeli intelligence, 100%. Gilani answers to Wexner. I know that for a fact. It was a sign that she would be under him. And I know that's where she got all of her funding to do this scam with Epstein. I know that. And it's all out of Israel.
Wexner gave Epstein extraordinary access to his finances, evidenced by a 1991 court filing in Franklin County that gave Epstein power of attorney.
Also today, a banker testified he was talking about many transactions between Epstein and Maxwell. We found out within 3 separate transactions that Epstein actually transferred Maxwell about $30 million. We found out from that banker that Maxwell spent about $7.3 million of those dollars on a green helicopter.
Used children.
Or both.
That's of course possible.
He could be a sick individual who was used perhaps by either foreign, as a foreign asset.
That's a good point.
Or a CIA asset.
That's a good point. But
right?
it does stink of a more professional blackmailing operation.
This Maxwell connection is kind of shocking. If you really take a look at what's going on with it, Robert Maxwell, the billionaire from the UK who owned a newspaper empire there have been allegations and claims for many years. He died in 1991, by the way, in a completely bizarre way. He was standing naked on his yacht named after his daughter, and then jumped in or fell into the ocean near the Canary Islands and either drowned or had a heart attack, and there isn't even a clear cause of death for him. The claims have been made over the years that he was Mossad. In fact, the British Foreign Office believed that he was absolutely a double agent, and they believed that he was Mossad.
Will he ask the Prime Minister, as head of the Security and Intelligence Services, to order an immediate inquiry into the alleged relationship between the Israeli intelligence service and Robert Maxwell?
He told me, he said he was such an important person for Israel that they gave him a state funeral, and she went on and on and on about his funeral ceremony, and she showed me pictures of like what a big deal it was. And she said they murdered him. That Israel murdered him.
Talk about famous spies in Israel's history or any history. Ari Ben Menashe's guy, Robert Maxwell, was about the biggest as you can get. He was a famous British publisher. He ran the Daily Mirror. He was larger than life in many ways. He also maybe leaked very sensitive information to the Russians and to the Israelis. But these guys were big deal intelligence assets. And he landed up becoming much more of an asset for the Israelis, and in fact died maybe at the hands of Mossad, who many people say he had crossed the line. He was threatening to reveal some of the secrets, and he just became uncontrollable.
And they've admitted to the public that they took over Robert Maxwell's spying records, operations, and moved that to Florida, to Jeffrey Epstein's house. That's been admitted. That's a fact.
And it was Robert Maxwell, the famous spy, who introduced Ari Ben Menashe to Jeffrey Epstein, who introduced Jeffrey Epstein to Israeli military intelligence in Israel, and who introduced all of them to a very different world.
They've been involved in our stealing our technology for many, many years. But another way that Israel has affected U.S. foreign policy is through blackmail operations. And I would point to Jeffrey Epstein, who was allowed for 30 years. The American ruling class is corrupt, and the American people must clean house.
I want to thank you, Democrats and Republicans, for your common support for Israel, year after year, decade after decade.
Both parties Both political parties in America are controlled by Zionists. There is no choice in America.
Epstein and Maxwell were both Israeli spies working for Israeli military intelligence, and that they were running a blackmail scheme here in our country, in North America, targeting our politicians, our scientists, our academics. And they were doing it for military intelligence in Israel.